Hello, 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 everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Viper Strike 95, and today we're officially back with our first official stream of 2026 here. And we're here in the beautiful region of Catalonia here today. We're here at Roos Airport today, and we're doing our first game day flight of this year. And it's a very big one. We're here to talk about our first match, and it is the Derby Barcelona today. We're going to be doing that today, aka also known as the Catalan Derby. And it's between the two biggest clubs in the region of Catalonia here in Spain. First off, we have the home team this year being RCD Espanyol. Real Club Deportivo Espanyol de Barcelona. The other is the biggest club in the region and one of the biggest in the world, FC Barcelona. So we got some pretty big matches coming up. It's going to be on this Saturday, of course. It's going to be the biggest Barcelona derby in quite some bit of time. So it's going to be an absolutely huge affair. This year. It's going to be a very intense derby, and it's going to be a very intense matchup, of course. So before we get started, I do want to say hello to everyone in chat, the lurkers and all that. Good to have you guys here as well. Hope you guys are all having a good day in the mods. Good to have you all here too. So let's go ahead and get this started with our nav map for this morning, of course. So let's talk about our little nav map this morning. So here's our nav map this morning, by the way. So we're going to start here at Roos Airport. We're going to fly over the city of Roos for a bit. Then from there we'll head up north. We'll head up northwest. We'll head to the city of Lleida here in Catalonia. Then from there we'll head up northeast, and we'll make our first stop here at Ciudad de Urgell Airport, Lima Echo Sierra Uniform. This is the main airport that connects to Andorra, by the way. So that is going to be a very important stop. Then from there, our second stop will take us through the mountains of Catalonia. We'll fly over near some of the peaks and stuff. Then from there, we'll head over east, and we'll eventually make our way to our second stop in the city of Girona. We'll visit the Girona Cathedral and the Estadi de Montilivi, and we'll stop here at Lima Echo Golf Echo. But yeah, we'll fly over Girona. Then for our third and final stop, we'll make our way to Barcelona. So we'll fly to Sabadell, make our way down south. Then I picked some of the PUI landmarks. We'll go over the new Sardina. This is the home of CE Europa, the forgotten founder of La Liga for Barcelona. CE Europa, the third biggest club in the city. Then of course the Sagrada Familia. The Sagrada Familia, right here. The big famous Basilica by Gaudi. Then from there, we're going to head over to this area here. This is where the Estadi Sarria used to be, the former home of Espanyol. Then from there, we'll head up southwest. We'll visit the Spotify Camp Nou, the home of FC Barcelona. So we'll check out Barcelona's temple. Then from there, we'll go to the Montjuïc, check out the Olympic Stadium. And then this was where Barcelona and Espanyol have both played as well. And finally, for our last day in PY, we'll visit the RCD Stadium, the current home of Espanyol. And finally, our last stop is, of course, at El Prat Airport. Lima Echo Bravo Lima. So that's going to be where we're flying here today. We're going to be flying around Catalonia today for this morning's stream, of course. So we'll take the Piper Arrow with us today. The Piper Arrow 3, I got the blue and white. The white and blue for Espanyol's team colors. Yo te estimo Espanyol. So we got the Parakeets team colors, of course. So we got that going on this morning, of course. So let's go ahead and get this plane started. I hope you're all doing well. So yeah, our test stream went very good yesterday. Everything worked the way it needed to be. So the only thing I still need to work on is that nearest airport indicator. I need to get that one sorted out, of course. So I'm gonna get that sorted out, of course. So we're gonna go ahead and deal with chocks and tie downs. So we're gonna go ahead and get the fuel. We're gonna go ahead and turn on the battery alternator. Beacon pipe dot heat on. Mixture up here. So we're gonna go here. Gotta find the avionics light. So we got that on. So we're gonna get that turned on. So everything's turned on. So just gonna get everything going on. So there we go, guys. I think that is pretty much on for the most part. So we're going to go ahead and make our way down to runway 07. If you guys want to know our route for today and want to know where we're going, here's our route. Let's see if our slideshow's working. There. Just want to make sure our slides work. Okay. So here's our destination. So our altitude for this first part of the leg this morning. Our max altitude for this this trip is going to be 8,000 feet. So our first leg isn't going to be too far, but it is going to be we're going to go around 6,500. We're going to go to 4,500 feet for the first part of this leg, which is pretty high. $271, so I need to update the heading. So we're going to go ahead and turn things on. So we're going to go ahead and make our way over. So. So this is the city of Rouge, by the way. So Rouge, by the way, is located in Spain. This city in Catalonia has a population of 109,000 and is a major producer of wines and spirits across the country. It's also a center for rock climbing, and it's the birthplace of the famous Catalan architect Antoni Gaudí. That's his birthplace right here. So we're about to fly over this historic city in Catalonia. So we're going to go ahead and make our way north and fly our way up to the top. So there is Royce. Oh, stop it. So here's our first city. So here it is, guys. Pretty cool, huh? So we're going to climb up to about 4,500 feet for this first part. So let's go ahead and talk about our game day flight for this week. This weekend's game day flight. So of course we're in Catalonia this morning. I'm gonna turn to 321-degree heading. So there's downtown Royce. So we're gonna be flying Catalonia. So our derby today is the Catalan Derby, or Derby Barcelona, and it's one of the most played matchups in Spanish football, if not the single most played matchup in all of Spanish football, between Barcelona and Espanyol. It is also very well known, and this rivalry is quite a bitter one, especially on the Espanyol side, and it's manifested through the confrontation that both clubs have played after its history, mainly with La Liga, the King's Cup, or the Copa del Rey, the Spanish Super Cup, and the Ferris Cup, as well as friendly and regional matches. This is the main rivalry between the two big clubs in Barcelona. So this is a very important derby, especially if you ask the locals. This is a very big local derby. Of course, this rivalry is typically overlooked by many other fans because, of course, Espanyol isn't exactly the biggest club in Spain. Even though historically they're one of the most significant clubs in the country, Barcelona have always been a more dominant force in this rivalry, of course. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the history of the Derby Barcelona. So let's briefly talk about it. So the origins of football here in Catalonia date back to the 19th century, of course. And it's thanks to the fact that the English residents in the community, that many English people have settled in Barcelona, in the Catalonia, and brought their sport here. And they brought football over from England over to this region. Of course, it was also thanks to the influence of Catalan students returned from foreign colleges and stuff. This is important from the foreign areas. Of course, the first of these clubs to be found in Barcelona was FC Barcelona, and they were founded November 29th, 1899 by a Swiss businessman based in Barcelona named Hans Gamper, and he founded FC Barcelona, which is right now the biggest club in the city. However, a year later, Espanyol was founded. It was founded as Club Espanyol de Football, which is the embryonic thing of Espanyol. And he founded what was now RCD Espanyol in 1900 during his time at the Barcelona University. His name's Angel Rodriguez Ruiz. He founded the club back in 1900. And of course, in this wing, the first match between the two clubs was played on December 23rd, 1900. And of course, these were the two big clubs, and they played at the Camp del Hotel Casanovas and ended in a goalless tie. And progressively, the rivalry had increased for both clubs, as well as the number of matches, due to the fact of the Catalan Football Championship. And of course, this was a pretty big local rivalry during this time. Of course, in the 1920s, this rivalry expanded even further in the 1920s, as the rivalry between both clubs, which were both very popular in Catalonia, in 1924, during a time of political social upheaval, was held at the Camp de les Corts, which was part on to the Catalan Championship, where violent incidents were recorded by both fans that ended with throwing of coins on the field and suspension of the match. So, yes, this is still quite a bitter derby even nowadays, of course, with the Barcelona derby. And then in 1920-29, the Spanish government created the first of the Spanish Soccer League, aka La Liga. And it turns out both clubs are also founding members of La Liga. So yes, a lot of people don't think Espanyol have no history. I like to remind them that Espanyol were also founders of La Liga. A very historic founder in that too. Of course, Espanyol has been, while Barcelona has been around, never been relegated, Espanyol has been relegated for 6 times, but they've always gotten back up. So this is a game that's always been around for twice a season. However, a very interesting point in the rivalry's history in the derby was the 30s, and this was especially a turbulent time. If you guys know about your history in Spain, you guys all probably know what's happened. During the 30s, with the turbulent social political situation that proclaimed the Second Spanish Republic, eventually instability with the Republic led to, of course, the Spanish Civil War. This was quite a bitter one. And football was a principal political instrument used to satisfy the interests of locals' various social sectors. In this way, the Catalan politician used Barcelona as a spokesperson in social media to expose his own political demands for more of the Catalan beliefs, whereas Espanyol was more branded as a centralist kind of a thing, meaning part of central part of Spain, whereas Barcelona has been more used of the values of Catalonia. But the thing is, though, personally for me, from what I've known, is that there are supporters of both sides of the Catalonia debates in both Espanyol and Barcelona, because you can find people who say Barcelona belongs to Spain support FC Barcelona, or you can say a free independent Catalonia supporter in Espanyol. So it's not always that true. It's not always black and white. It's got a lot more meaning to it, of course. Of course, during the context of the war, the league championship has been suspended, and only the Catalonia Championship Mediterranean Football League and the Free Spain Cup were allowed. Furthermore, the situation meant a notable increase in the number of members of both clubs. So Barcelona in 1937 had made a tour in Mexico, which made about $50,000 and separated financially with Espanyol. And of course, when the Spanish Civil War was over, and when that conflict was over, and during the infamous Franco regime, which was very infamous, of course, you all probably know about the dictator Francisco Franco, Barcelona continued to grow in number of fans and achieved notable sporting successes. However, during this same period, due to institutional economic crisis, Espanyol had suffered a lot and led to the decline of the club. The only time that happened between the two Catalan teams in the Copa del Rey final was in 1957, which Barcelona beat Espanyol 1-0. Of course, during all this time, Barcelona was the dominant club in the derby. And Barcelona became the dominant club in the derby. It still is to this day, of course, until 2009. RCD Espanyol played their home games belonging to the city of Barcelona, originally at the Estadio de Sarria, and the other during the Olympic Stadium. However, in August 2nd of that year, the Espanyol inaugurated the new stadium in Cornellà, which is still belonged to the Barcelona area. However, some people consider it a separate municipality, and it caused the new episode of the rivalry between both clubs, as Barcelona fans think that Espanyol aren't even a Barcelona club. No longer a club from the Catalan capital. However, that isn't really the case. They've always been a Barcelona club, and technically, it's not easy to build a new stadium in Barcelona when you have all these houses and stuff in the way. And it's still part of the Barcelona metro area, and it's always been a Barcelona team. It's just in the metro area, but they're still a Barcelona club. So yeah, that is a bit about the history of the Derby Barcelona, a bit of the history of the Barcelona Derby. As you can definitely tell, it's pretty lopsided. Of course, there's another really bitter in-city derby. There's a couple really bitter ones in Spain. Spain's got quite a few really bitter inter-city derbies, of course. In Madrid, you have the Madrid Derby with Real Madrid and Atletico de Madrid. That's a very bitter rivalry in Madrid between two of the biggest clubs in Spain. And of course, the best in-city derby in Spain, however, if I'm being honest, is the one in Seville, between Sevilla FC and Real Betis. That one is a very special rivalry here in the city, of course. So, definitely very, very important. So, that's definitely some very interesting stuff. So, before we get to talk about this weekend, of course, I hope you all have really good plans this weekend. So, we're going to be flying to the Sea of Lleida. Lleida is a very interesting city we'll be visiting next in West Catalonia. Population 140,000. It's actually one of the oldest towns in the region, dating back to the Bronze Age. And this area was mainly the settlement of the Iberian people, the Ligurians. Of course, it was damaged by several wars: the Reapers' War in the 17th century, or the Catalan Revolution, and the Spanish Civil War. But it's under constant urban growth. But Lleida definitely has some pretty interesting so pretty important little city here in Catalonia. So I know we got some really cool stuff planned here this morning, of course. So in terms of other news as well, some big sports news, of course. The college football playoff is going to the next round, and by the way, for our next Gameday flight, by the way, so some big games, of course, in the college football playoffs. Big game, of course. Ole Miss had an absolutely amazing game yesterday, as Ole Miss absolutely crushed Georgia. Absolutely had a shootout with Georgia, but Ole Miss is advancing to the semifinal. The Rose Bowl, it was a complete slaughter, as Indiana just slaughtered Alabama 33. Indiana's continuing on the roll. They're rolling through everything. Oregon shuts out Texas Tech 23-0. And of course, the Cotton Bowl, Miami upsets Ohio State, a huge 10-seeded upset over the second-seeded Ohio State. So likely we might be doing the it's very likely we end up doing it's very likely we might be doing the The Peach Bowl with Indiana versus Oregon will be making a flight over from. We'll make a flight over from Indiana over to Atlanta. We'll go from Bloomington to Atlanta probably on Friday, as that's the matchup I ended up choosing to pick today, since there really isn't a lot of other matchups I want to pick this year for soccer, for football, I mean. So I think it makes sense I end up choosing the college football playoff, unless there's a schedule, unless there's a game out there that ends up working out better. So we'll be continuing. So we're gonna go ahead and make our way to. Hey, Richard Carter, good to see ya. Yes, it's a new game PC. It is super nice. The frame rates are super smooth here. Love one in this new PC. It's really nice. Really enjoy this stuff. We're in Spain today. We're doing the Barcelona derby today between Espanyol and FC Barcelona. So we'll talk about some other important things. So one interesting thing about the derby, of course, there are several notable. Thank you, Richie. It is. It's a 5070 Ti. Real. It's a very nice graphics card. It's near top of the line. So here's La Liga. Here in Catalonia, of course, but we'll then go 6,500 feet. And we'll make our climb here. So, some important notable games in the rivalry. There are some very notable moments. Despite it being lopsided, there have been several important moments. One very important moment in this derby, of course, was on June 8th, 2007. Espanyol got a pretty big matchup against Barcelona, and they did something very important that year. Espanyol managed to do a 2-2 draw on the penultimate day of La Liga, and during the La Liga season. And because of that draw, it allowed Barcelona's most hated rival, Real Madrid, to win La Liga that year. Espanyol fans, this is one of the biggest moments in club history, by the way, especially against their hated rivals. And this moment is dubbed by Espanyol supporters as the Tamudazo for the Espanyol club legend Raul Tamuda. And he was the one who scored the goal for the draw. Of course, then during the 2008-2009 season, Espanyol got a huge win in that game. And this became the first team to defeat that Barcelona team at Camp Nou in Barcelona's legendary treble-winning season that year. As with Pep Guardiola as manager, and they managed to beat Barcelona. Of course, another big game in the Barcelona derby was on May 14th, 2023. Barcelona won the La Liga championship after defeating Espanyol on their home ground. And during Barcelona's celebration, the team ran into the locker rooms after Espanyol fans invaded the pitch and disrupted their celebrations. And trust me, this is not the first time that's happened. And they did the same thing just 2 years later. Barcelona won the La Liga title at Espanyol's home ground once again. Yeah, you know the Paraguayans don't like that. Winning on their home ground. Yeah. Where are you flying? Oh, where am I flying? So, I'm flying the Just Flight Piper Arrow 3. This is the Piper Arrow 3 by Just Flight. So this is the plane I'm flying here today, Richie. What's the specs? It's got a G-Force RTX. It's got an ESIS TUF 870 plus Wi-Fi motherboard. So it's an AM5 with the DDR5. Couple of I think DDR5 ROMs, 2 of them so far. I'm gonna get, apparently in the future, I'm gonna get 2 more of those to make it 64 gigs, 64 gig RAMs. Liquid cooling system, and a couple other things too. But really nice system, very high. It's a pretty high end actually. But yeah, so that's what I got in my settings, of course. But really cool stuff with it too. So we're gonna head our way over into this direction. We'll be flying over to our first stop here. So I want to briefly talk a bit about FC Barcelona for a bit. So our first club we'll be talking about today in this afternoon's flight is FC Barcelona, of course. Now, if you guys know soccer or football and don't know about this club, you're living under a pretty big rock. But FC Barcelona is one of the biggest football clubs in the world. Based in Barcelona, they are founded in 1899 by a group of Swiss, Catalan, German, and English footballers led by Joan or Hans Gamper, and has become a symbol of Catalan culture and Catalanism. Hence, the club's famous motto, Més que un club, or more than a club, and it definitely makes sense because it is a very big outlet for this region. Unlike many other football clubs, the supporters actually own and operate Barcelona. They're one of only 4 clubs in Spain that are owned by the fans. The other 3 notable clubs are Real Madrid, Athletic Club Bilbao, which we visited earlier in the series, and CA Osasuna. And they're also one of the most valuable football clubs in the world, valued about $5.6 billion. It's the 3rd most valuable football club in the world and the 4th richest in terms of revenue. Of course, Barcelona has had the famous club anthem, Cant del Barcelona, which of course you all probably know it, and of course the other nickname for this club, the Blaugrana, the blue and garnet. Of course, this is one of the most decorated clubs in the world. Domestically, Barcelona have won 80 domestic trophies, 28 La Liga titles, 32 Copa del Reys, 15 Spanish Super Cups, as well as being a record for the latter 4 competitions. Internationally, they've won 22 European titles, including 5 Champions Leagues, 4 UEFA Cup Winner Cups, 3 Intercities Fair Cups, 5 UEFA Super Cups, and 3 FIFA Club World Cups, to name the list. They're one of the biggest clubs in the world. And they're also very widely supported all across the globe. Their social media followers are massive. They've had an insane 12 Ballon d'Or winners. Most of these came from Lionel Messi, of course. And of course, they're one of the 3 founding members of La Liga that have never been relegated as well. Joined Athletic Club and Real Madrid as the never relegated clubs in the Spanish league. So yeah, Barcelona, extremely rich history, very proud club with a lot of traditions. There's no question Barcelona's big. And of course, the picture we have here, of course, is Lamine Yamal. You guys all probably know about Lamine. Absolute wonder kid. Lots of talent. So Barcelona, of course, has had a rich support. And of course, there's a lot of support. Supporters of Barcelona are known as culé, which is derived from the Catalan word cul, sol, meaning arse. As spectators at the first stadium, the Camp de la Industria sat with their butts with their arses in the stand. In fact, Barcelona is the 2nd most supported club in the country. About 25% of the population in Spain supports Barcelona, 2nd behind Real Madrid. And of course, throughout Europe, Barcelona is everyone's second choice club. In terms of club members, they have almost 150,000 memberships called socies. In addition to membership, there's also over 1,200 officially registered fan clubs called peñas around the world, and they promote Barcelona in their locality and receive offers visiting Barcelona. And they have massive internet support. On Facebook, they have about over 103 million fans supporting Barcelona, which is ridiculous. And the club has had many prominent supporters, including Pope John Paul II, who's an honorary member of Barcelona, and Spain's former Prime Minister Jose Luis Rodriguez Zapatero are some of Barcelona's most passionate and loving supporters. But this club is very rich. Of course, obviously, you can see the absolutely massive stadium in the picture at the Camp. Huge, huge, huge stadium, of course. Absolutely massive, of course. Huge ground. In terms of Barcelona club rivalries, obviously we have the local derby with Espanyol. We were talking about that earlier, but Barcelona has some other huge clashes. But if you gotta ask the biggest rivalry of all, if you ask most Barcelona fans, there's only one rivalry they'll probably tell you, and that is El Clasico with Real Madrid. It is probably the single biggest rivalry in European football, is El Clasico, and we will definitely cover El Clasico in this series. But this rivalry is extremely bitter. Not only the clash between the two strongest teams in La Liga, this rivalry is also extremely bitter due to the representatives of the two rival regions of Catalonia and Castile. And as a result, this means that there's not only a clash between political but cultural tensions, and it's been felt ever since the Spanish Civil War. It's a huge game. We'll talk all about El Clasico when we do it, but it's a huge, huge rivalry. I mean, entirely titles, Copa del Rey's, Champions Leagues have been decided by this rivalry. It's a massive deal. It is a massive deal when we talk about it. Of course, another rivalry is with Athletic Club. Now, of course, it's nowhere near as bitter as the one Barcelona as Real Madrid. But again, it's another very much a played matchup every year. And however, this rivalry is a very healthy one. Because both Catalonia and the Basque Country have had similar incidents of oppression from Franco, and that built a sense of solidarity with the two clubs. But this rivalry is still a very important one for historically speaking. Their last rivalry is a major European rivalry, and that's with AC Milan, actually. In fact, it's the team that Barcelona has played the most in Europe, and it's the third most played match in European competitions. And these two clubs have been among the most successful in Europe. So, very historic European clash between these two. So we're going to go ahead and climb to 6,500 feet and make our way up. So, very historical rival course. Yep, they're just about to finish up renovations to the Camp. That's right, they're just about to finish the Camp new renovations. I'll show you guys what it looks like when we get closer. But yeah, I'm going to be in Barcelona in April, actually. I'm going to be, April 2026 is where I'm going to be visiting on a trip. So I'm going to have a day in Barcelona, so I'm hoping to check out both the Camp Nou and the RCD East Stadium. So I'll be visiting both these places. So I'm very excited to check that out. But yeah, it's going to be over 105,000, which would make it the largest stadium in Europe by a considerable amount, to be the biggest stadium in Europe. However, here's the crazy thing. It still will not be as big as some of the college football stadiums here in the United States. It'll still be smaller than Michigan Stadium, though. Don't worry, we'll talk all about that, of course. So that's definitely something to get about. It's definitely a huge, huge ground will be covered here. Of course, Barcelona's owner financial ownership. Of course, it is owned by supporters, and they join alongside the 3 other Spanish clubs owned by fans I spoke about: Real Madrid, Athletic Bilbao, or they would like to call Athletic Club. But they're owned by the fans. They're a registered association, and they're owned by the fans. Of course, they're one of those valuable clubs in the world. However, they've also had a bit of a spending problem. And that's been a big issue with Barcelona over the last few years. They've been spending under the poor leadership of Josep Maria Bartomeu, and other factors have put Barcelona in a massive amount of debt. About $1.4 billion of debt, that is. Of course, they definitely have it. It's a lot of debt. So that's something to keep in mind with Barcelona. They got a lot of debt going on right now at the club. So, but yeah, the Camp Nou should look very impressive, of course. But of course, Barcelona has played a massive role in the culture of Catalonia. I mean, in fact, the club's statutes from 1932 even state that Barcelona's association of cultural sport nature in the club and players have been an inspiration for writers, musicians, visual artists, journalists, cartoonists, theater, and film people. Of course, Barcelona's been a big part of its club, and as a result, Barcelona is, of course, a symbol of Catalonia. It's one of the how people identify with the region. And it makes sense considering that with political difficulty and lack of freedoms, Barca has been a refuge and means for cultural and artistic activities. And it's important because this is a big reason why Barcelona has been so popular with a lot of people, because it exemplifies Catalonia's defiance to Franco. The club in 2013 highlighted a Barca cultural plan, which promotes the area institutional relations, offering Barcelona as a platform to promote culture in Catalonia. And in 2022, Barca and Omnium's Cultural have signed an agreement to promote the Catalan language, culture, and the country itself. And it talks all about Barcelona has been a big part of the culture here in the region. Like I said, that term more than a club, it actually makes a ton of sense when we talk about FC Barcelona. It's a big, big deal here for this club. And that's why it's gotten popular over the years. So, let's see how much far we got for a bit until our next stop. But yeah, the Camp Nou is going to be over 100,000. That's going to be crazy. So one of the very big things, though, about Barcelona, of course, is its historic kits and crest. Now, of course, this here is actually the original crest of Barcelona here. But the famous crest that you all see on their kits, well, the original crest is this, a diamond-shaped crest topped by the crown of Aragon in the bat of King James. We're surrounded by 2 branches, one with a laurel tree and the other a palm. And of course, the club shared Barcelona's coat of arms as an identification of the city. But of course, this didn't last because in 1910, the club held a competition among its members to design a new crest. The winner of this crest was actually Carlos Comamla, who at the time played for the club, and his suggestion became the crest that the club probably wears today. Of course, with some major modifications. The crest you'll see nowadays consists of St. George's Cross in the upper left corner, with the Catalan flag beside it, and the team colors at the bottom, the blue and garnet colors. Of course, you guys all want to know how their colors came to be. Well, the blue and garnet colors of the shirt have been first worn in 1900. Of course, there are several theories of why they picked blue and garnet. Some people say that it was the son of the first president, claiming it was the idea of his father who wore the colors as Merchant Taylor School's team. Another explanation suggested that, from author Tony Struble, they were actually from Robespierre's First Republic of France. Of course, in Catalonia itself, the common perception is that the colors were actually chosen by Joan Gopper and of his home team back in Switzerland, FC Basel. So let's look outside, and man, this is gorgeous. Look at the scenery here in this part of Catalonia. Man, this is This is gorgeous. Take a look at the scenery, guys. This is it's just stunning. Beautiful mountain scenery. Wow, that is one pretty area. So taking a bit of a break here, of course. But yeah, the blue and grana has been worn. It has been a very common color, of course. You guys all know about the blue and grana, one of those famous uniforms in European football. Yeah, this region of Spain is absolutely gorgeous. Just absolutely breathtaking. Just the peaks here are just crazy. Who knew Spain is this gorgeous? You know, this is why I like to have an area in Spain we can just fly and do some fun. Flying, of course. So, pretty big stuff going on here as well. So this might be our last slide until landing, of course. I'm going to do one last slide until we land. So Barcelona has some club anthems, but of course the club anthem that they performed here is Cant del Barça, the Song of Barca, and it was composed in 1974 on the club's 75th anniversary. The lyrics were composed in Catalan by Josep Maria Espanyol and Joan Picas, while the music was composed by Manuel Valls. It was first performed at Camp Nou on November 27, 1974, between FC Barcelona and the East German national team. It was the first time this song was played. Of course, on the occasion of the club's 124th anniversary and the preparation of the 125th anniversary last year, the club presented a new anthem version, recording faithful to the essence of the original score with better quality and enhanced orchestration and visuals, composed by the Valles Symphony Orchestra. And of course, this song is turned on before Barcelona games at the Camp Nou, especially during matches against Real Madrid just before the start of the meeting. So, very popular song and very popular anthem here for Barcelona. And speaking of it, we have bots. We got a bot. Great. So we're about to make our first stop of the day here. So let's go ahead and let me deal with the bots. So, oh, thank you, Typhon. Appreciate it. So, of course, this week, we have a couple streams. Murphy's going to be back on today. He'll be back today at 3 p.m. My time. He'll be doing the F06 Caravan 2 in Scotland. Should be an absolutely gorgeous trip up in Scotland. Going all the way to the Shetlands, which I visited Kirkwall and the Orkneys, but never to Shetland. I did visit Scotland. Beautiful, beautiful area. Definitely my favorite when visiting the United Kingdom. Allison's going to be back on Saturday. She'll be doing her helicopters, of course. She'll be doing another recreation flight. She should be back for that, of course. I bet she's still tired after doing the entirety of the 19-hour flight from Singapore to JFK, which I can't believe she managed to actually do it. But major credit to her. Let me go ahead and turn off autopilot. We're about to get landing, of course. So we're going to go ahead and prepare for the landing here. I think our airport isn't that far. So we're going to make our landing here in our first stop, Lima Echo Sierra Uniform. This is actually the main airport that gets into connection to Andorra. So, and yes, before you ask, there is a club from Andorra that plays in the Spanish League. Now, interesting story about that club. It's FC Andorra. It's actually a pretty old club, dating back to 1942. But FC Andorra actually plays at the Estadio Nacional in Andorra. It's the national stadium, formerly the national stadium. And it's been allowed to compete in Spain since 1948, believe it or not. Interesting thing about this club, of course, it's actually owned by a former Barcelona great, Gerard Piqué. He's actually the owner of the club, and they're right now in. They now actually play in the Segunda division, the second division of Spain. So they're doing pretty well. So pretty important stuff, obviously, here. So in terms of Spain this year, so if you guys wonder why I picked the Barcelona derby this week, I know a lot of you guys asking. Some of you guys might be asking, why did I pick the Barcelona derby over Old Firm? I think ultimately because it's not every day you see the Barcelona derby be this big. And the reason why I picked the Barcelona derby this year and not the Old Firm is because if you guys are aware about Scottish football, guess who normally is the top two teams in the Scottish League? Yeah, it's Rangers and Celtic. They're always been in the top two of Scotland. This year, it's not really the case this year because Hearts has still been really good this year. But what I'm trying to say is that it's usually common to see top two, Celtic, Rangers. However, Barcelona derby, it's not every day you see Barcelona and Espanyol in the top five of the table. It's not every day you see both sides at a high placement during the league season. Oh, do you think you'll get to see a match when I'm in Barcelona? So Ricky, no, I checked the schedule. There will be no matches, of course, during my time in Barcelona. That's not very likely to get to see a match. However, I will do a tour, and the tour I'll be doing is the RCD Stadium. Actually, will be my tour, and the reason being is because, if you don't know, Richie, I'm actually a big Espanyol supporter in the United States. I'm actually a big fan of RCD Espanyol. They're my other European club I support outside of Everton. Is the Parakeets. I just connect to a lot of the blue and white of the club. The blue and white of the white and blue of the Parakeets. Yeah, I'm a big Parakeet supporter. I'm actually part of the community Discord for the Parakeets, so I'm very much active. I watch a lot of their games. I've been supporting them for the past 2 or 3 seasons. Been watching the Parakeets in Spain. Really cool, really great club. So I'm very excited for that as well. Yeah. And don't worry, I got plenty of interesting slides when we get to talk about the Paraquitos, of course, the Parakeets. Yeah, there are 3 football clubs I support. Locally, Louisville City is my local club. Then Everton's the English club, and then Spain is Espanyol. And I picked the English and Spanish leagues when I was back a while ago because those are the 2 easiest ones for an American one to follow. Not saying the Bundesliga or Serie A are interesting leagues. We'll talk about those. But Premier League and La Liga are the 2 main European ones I'm following. It's important, so there's that too. So we'll wait right here. If anyone else wants to join on in, we're in the Southeast Asia server. And we're here. And here's our route. So we'll be waiting for anyone else who wants to join on in and want to fly along with us. But yeah, it's a big match. And the other reason too, of course, this is probably the biggest Barcelona derby in many years. The reason being, of course, the last few years, Espanyol has been yo-yoing up La Liga and Segunda division. Well, Barcelona has always been one of the best teams, so it's not every day that we get to have two of these rivals playing extremely well. Espanyol's on a 5-game win streak, by the way, so they're coming into it with a 5-game win streak. They just beat Athletic Club in the San Mames, so big win. So let's go ahead and get ready for the next leg. We're going to go ahead and prepare for the next leg of the trip. We're in terms of it as well, 86 degrees. Well, careful. Okay, 62. And we're off. So we're going to climb up to 8,000 feet here. So we're going to climb all the way to 8,000 for this leg. So it's going to be an absolutely beautiful area here in this part of Spain. Here's good to see you, Ricky. I'm happy to get someone gets to join along me in one of these flights. So we're going to climb 8,000 feet. So as we climb to 8,000 feet, I'm going to go ahead and talk more about our slideshow, obviously. Of course, you all know this. This is Barcelona's home temple, the Camp Nou. This legendary home in Barcelona has been part of FC Barcelona since 1957. It's currently going under renovation now, and when it's done, the seating capacity will be at an astonishing 105,000 people, which would make it the largest stadium not just in Spain, it would be the largest stadium in all of Europe. And it would be the second largest association football stadium in the world, only trailing the Verstappen Stadium in North Korea, and the 5th largest in the world. It is an absolutely huge facility. Camp Nou it's hosted all sorts of events. 2 different Champions League finals in 1989 and 1999, 2 European Cup Winter Cup finals, 4 Intercity Cup Fair Cups games, 5 UEFA Super Cup games, 4 Copa del Rey finals, and 21 Super Cup finals. It's also hosted 5 matches of the 1982 FIFA World Cup, including the opening game, as well as the football tournament final in 1992 Summer Olympics. So this stadium has hosted just about all sorts of major events over the years. It's hosted all sorts of events. Of course, the renovation is going to be expanded, but yeah, and mind you, the thing is, even before they did all of this, even before all this, even before all the renovations, the seating capacity of the Camp was already going to be 98,000. It was already a huge stadium even before all of it. The max attendance for a record attendance for a Barcelona game was in the 1986 European Cup, with a max capacity of 120,000 people at the Camp. Yes, 120,000 people, which is actually insane to think about. Of course, let me show you, yeah, it was already huge, and it's going to be even bigger now. So prior to the Camp Nou, and prior to that, they played a couple of other stadiums prior, including the Camp de Industria and the previous stadium, the Camp de les Corts, were the previous home grounds that Barcelona has played at. during this time. So, but of course, the Camp Nou has been their home ever since. In terms of club honors, here's their club honors at Barcelona. You can check all their club honors. I mean, there's so many trophies they've won over all these years. I mean, they've won everything. 20 La Liga titles, a record 32 Copa del Reys, 16 Super Cups. All those are records, by the way, in yellow. And here's their European competition. 5 Champions Leagues, 4 Cup Winner Cups, 5 UEFA Super Cups, and they even won the FIFA Club World Cup 3 times. And of course, regionally, they dominated the Catalonia Football Championship. So, but yeah, they completely have dominated Spanish football. As you can tell, they're one of the dominant powers in Spain. So here's their honors. Now, finally, for some of their legendary players, where do I even begin with the legends? Of course, if you guys know this picture and who this belonged to, you guys probably all know who it is. It's Lionel Messi. And I mean, with Barcelona having so many greats, Lionel Messi still stands above all of them. And if you guys don't know about Lionel Messi, how big of a rock do you guys are living under? Because I'm actually serious. How big of a rock are you guys actually living under? He is Barcelona's all-time most goals and appearances at the club. He came to Barcelona at their legendary La Masia Academy from Newell's Old Boys during his growth hormone, and he became a Barcelona legend and played at the senior career club all the way to 2021. And during his time in Barcelona, he racked up an insane 474 goals at Barcelona in only 520 appearances, which is insane. The dude has won a record 8 Ballon d'Ors. 8 of them. He's won 8 Ballon d'Ors, the most of any player in the world. He's one of the GOATs of the game. He is the 21st century Pele. Absolutely dominant. And he is Barcelona's greatest player. There's no question. Of course, next name is Johan Cruyff. Now, of course, if you've been around during the Feyenoord stream, I mentioned Cruyff as Ajax's greatest player. However, he's also a major Barcelona legend, and he has played a massive role for the club, not just as a player, but Cruyff has also been a legendary figure off the pitch. In fact, Cruyff was a major piece for Barcelona as a coach, as a manager. He became a successful manager at Barcelona as well. Then, of course, we have Messi's partner in crime, Luis Suarez. Was for 2014-2020, got over 147 goals in just 191 appearances at Barcelona. He won a Golden Boot in the Pichichi Trophy, and he's one of the all-time greatest South American goal scorers. But he truly broke out into becoming a legend at Barcelona. He's been amazing at Barcelona. He's been a club legend. Then, of course, we have Xavi. Xavi is one of the greatest midfielders of all time, 505 appearances, and he's one of the greatest midfielders of all time at Barcelona. And played for Barcelona for pretty much his entire career, except for 4 seasons in Al Sadd in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar. But he is a legendary player. It was a big part of Barcelona's Champions League triumphs, and he's been at 3rd place in the Ballon d'Or quite a few times. And he was an amazing combination with Pep Guardiola, with Andres Iniesta, who again is another name listed here, is Andres Iniesta, his midfield partner in crime, and one of the few Barcelona players that I respect. Then you have the defensive stalwart of Carlos Puig, one of the most feared defenders ever, and Carlos Puyol. Oh, nice. You got to attend El Clasico twice? Oh, my goodness, man. You know, for most football fans, El Clasico is something they do once in a lifetime. You get to attend 2 of them is actually insane to think about. You're one very lucky guy. And open up YouTube. Yeah, it is absolutely insane. You're very lucky. Of course, the next notable player is Neymar Jr., the son of Neymar, of the original Neymar Sr., but he had a great career during his time in Barcelona. However, most people know him nowadays for that massive transfer he did at PSG for $252 million, or 252 million euros. Absolutely insane transfer, but he was an absolutely terrifying playmaker and goal-scoring machine. Then, of course, we have Ronaldinho, one of the most feared wingers of all time. Ronaldinho, a club legend. Then the next one, of course, is a more recent player, but I have to put Lamine Yamal on this list, of course. I know it sounds crazy to think Viper maybe a little early put Lamine's name on this list, but trust me, Lamine Yamal is one of the best young talents in the world, and he could very well be a legend someday at Barcelona. He is one of the best players in the world, and he's still only 18. The kid is freakishly talented, and he's already done amazing things at Barcelona. He could potentially be one of the all-time greats. And of course, there are many, many more Barcelona legends to pick from, but I'm going with the guys I have listed here. So that's what I'm going with this, obviously. So that is where I'm going with the Barcelona slides. And that ends our slides on FC Barcelona. So that ends our slides for a bit of FC Barcelona. So let me show you the Spanish stadium site. I have it here. The Estadios de España. So this is a site where I found all the stadiums. Yeah, he grew up in one of the least advantaged areas of Barcelona. Yeah. But man, Lamine Yamal is such a talented kid. Unbelievably talented guy. I know he's got a big ego, but man, he's got all the talent in the world. He's that good. So this is the Estadio de España. So here's what Camp Nou would look like with the renovations, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and turn right. Sorry, I'm not looking at the chat. I'm trying to keep my eye on that thing as well. So here's Camp Nou, of course. So renovations and stuff. So, of course, they're actually now playing at the Camp Nou right now. In fact, just recently, they are playing at the Camp right now as we speak. As we speak, they are playing at the Camp as we speak. Though they're playing in limited capacity, however, because the renovations are still not done yet. But here's what the stadium looks like with some of the renovations, of course. So this is what some of the stuff looks like with the stadium being done. So that's what the exterior is going to be like at the Camp. Database. I have a stadium database here. Espanyol. Here it is. Spotify Camp Nou. So right now it's playing at 45,000 people as we speak. So that is where they play as we speak at the Camp Nou, and they're currently doing renovations. Of course, if you look but gone but forgotten, you have all the different stadiums here. So this here, we're going to show you Les Corts. This is where Barcelona used to play all these years, at the Les Corts. This was their previous ground before the Camp, so this is some of the old pictures and stuff. This is a great resource if you want to learn more about the old Spanish grounds. So this is the Camp de Les Corts. This was their original home ground before the Camp. And it was a pretty small little stadium, though, too, especially when compared to Barcelona's current stadium. because initially it had a capacity of 22,000 people, which was not a lot going to Barcelona that day. The capacity then was up to 60,000 people. Mind you, there was a lot of standing area here. People used to stand during all of it. But of course, they had to build a new stadium in order to compete with Real Madrid. With their Bernabeu, they had to compete with them, so they built a new stadium, the Camp. But yeah, this was the old Les Corts, and that was demolished back in 1966. So that is so yeah, that was Barcelona's old ground. But really cool stuff here. But yeah. So if you want to learn more about Les Corts and want to learn more about it in all the different Spanish grounds, here's the link for it. Very historic area. Here. So we're going to talk about the other club in Barcelona right now. So let's go ahead and talk about the other club here in the city of Barcelona, Espanyol. Now, of course, the Parakeets are always the overlooked club in the city. However, let me tell you something. As an American supporter of Espanyol, that's not the case. So Espanyol had a very interesting history in Spanish football. They're actually one of the most historic clubs in Spain, dating back all the way back to 1900. They play their game at the RCD Stadium, which holds 40,000 people. Domestically, they've won 4 honors, and it's the Copa del Rey 4 times. Most recently in 2006, and in Europe, they reached the UEFA Cup twice, in the final twice in 1988 and 2007. However, they fell in both those games, one to Bayer Leverkusen, the other to Sevilla. And everyone and their mother knows about their historic rivalry with Barcelona, of course. Now, obviously, I know some of you guys are going to be thinking, Viper, Barcelona is the bigger club, so why aren't people talking about Espanyol a bit more as a club? Well, the reason being, of course, as you all know, the Parakeets have been nowhere near as successful as Barcelona. And to be fair, it's kind of hard, considering that being a Parakeet is about suffering. And Espanyol has gone through a lot of it over the years. That being said, Espanyol are very much a proud Spanish club. They are a big club. They're founders of La Liga, mind you. They've been playing for 89 seasons in the league, which is only 500 clubs that played as much or more than Espanyol's had. And of course, they had some great players too over the years. Espanyol's main full club name is RCD Espanyol, Real Club Deportivo Espanyol de Barcelona. Of course, translate this to Spanish. This is from Catalan to English. This is Royal Sporting Club Espanyol Barcelona. So that's what it translates to in English, by the way. But yeah, the Parakeets were founded back in 1900 by Angel Rodriguez Ruiz during his time at Barcelona University. In fact, I believe it's one of the first clubs that's being founded by locals, too. Of course, this is a club with a rich history. Of course, the club has had many famous nicknames, but mostly it's the Paraquitos, are their nickname. So, in terms of their symbols, of course, and the club's symbol and identity, of course, the crest is pretty unique, and it's got a very famous crest in Spanish football. Of course, the club's had 7 different shield, of course. And the club has had some really different shields. Of course, one interesting thing about this shield, of course, is its unique shield. So one interesting symbol of the club, of course, has been the uniforms. But what if I told you Espanyol's first uniforms wasn't the famous white and blue that we all know of? Espanyol's original color was actually yellow and black, and they wore this during the 125th anniversary game earlier this year. They actually wore the original team colors of yellow and black. And it was because Angel Ruiz got a donation of clothes from the owner of a textile industry which is yellow with white and black. But of course, what changed the color to the famous white and blue was on February 20th, 1910, where the club was reactivated due to lack of players, and at the proposal of Edouard Corrons, the members assembly changed to the old all-white uniforms at the time to the barred white and blue one that still is worn by the club proudly since then. Now, if you wonder why they picked white and blue, well, this is because you all know that Espanyol is very much a Catalan club. And those blue and white were the color of the coat of arms of the Admiral Roger de Luria, who is a very famous naval admiral of Aragon, and he wore a proudly part of the symbol of the club. It was thanks to the Sicilian Argy's General Roger de Luria, and he sailed the Mediterranean to protect the interests of Aragon in the Middle Ages. So yes, the colors are part of Catalonia. Also, of course, during that same assembly, he also proposed a brand new crest of the colors. And that new crest, of course, is it's a round circular crest with the club's name. In the middle of it is, of course, the famous blue stripes mixed with white. It consists of 3 bars of azure and the field of silver, and that has been the flag of the Catalan Navy. So this, in a sign, is actually the flag of the Catalan Navy since the 13th century. Of course, then officially in 1912, they got the title of Real. The royal crown was added to the shield because it was bestowed by King Alfonso. Hence, RCD Espanyol. Now, of course, they did have to change the crest when the Spanish Republic happened. They had to delete the Real in the crown, though it reappeared after the Spanish Civil War. Eventually, as well. And eventually, it was changed to Espanyol, which is on your right. Of course, it was changed back to the Catalan lettering in 1999. Changed it back to the Catalan spelling in 1998. So yeah, pretty cool stuff about Espanyol, the unique colors and symbols of the parakeets. Yes, very much, but yeah, Espanyol are very much a Catalan club. I know some people don't think they are, but they're very much are a Catalan club. They may not have all that stuff, but they're very much Catalan as well. Of course, the Parakeets have had several club anthems over the years. There are 3 popular recognized anthems. The original is known as the Solos Españolistas, and it was created in 1975 from music with Joseph Guardiola and lyrics by Ricard Pastor. Now, here's a crazy thing about Joshua Guardiola. What if I told you that Joseph Guardiola is the father of Pep Guardiola? What? Yes. Pep Guardiola's dad actually sang Espanyol's anthem, which is actually crazy to think about. He used more Doors and Valenti, but Joseph Guardiola, of course. And it was a poem dedicated to the white and blue colors of the team in Larger de Luria. However, the second anthem is still the most popular one by many of the Parakeets fans. And that one was created in 1903 by teacher Carlos Lopart. And it had a peculiarity because this anthem is bilingual, just Spanish and Catalan, actually. And of course, in 1992, it was translated completely into Catalan. And the final one is the current anthem of Espanyol. which was presented in November 14, 1999. It was composed by former conductor of the La Savinta Orchestra, Anthony Moss, and is recorded by the Catalan Orielfo in the Valles Symphony. And that is the main anthem you hear. Yeah, if that's true, that's crazy. Yep. But yeah, Espanyol's played a big part in Catalonia for many, many years. So we'll go ahead and descend down here shortly, of course. So we got one last slide I want to cover as we descend down into Girona. So as we get into Girona, of course, I'm going to talk about one last slide. And one last slide we'll be covering as we get on our way down is the nickname, of course, the Parakeet. This is a very important thing if you talk about Espanyol supporters. They're called the Parakeets. Now, I know a lot of you guys thinking, where on earth did the Parakeet even come from as a club nickname? So the word Paraquito came from the great Catalan humorist at the time, Valentin Castanis, when he wrote some of the jokes during his sports annual weekend, the Shot, which was produced between 1922 and 1936. And of course, he satirized the small number of Espanyol members, and he did them as 4 black cats. And of course, that same years, Pat Sullivan created the first animated cat in cinema, Felix the cat. So you guys all probably know about that. So Felix the cat ended up arriving into the country in 1929. However, with the name of the Paraco cat or Parakeet cat was because with the sound cinema at the time, its characteristic of a talking animal stood out, and from there, with the 4 usual cats, they become paracos or paraquitos. So yes, the cats actually came to a language, and which is crazy to think about, but there's a whole video on it. Now, of course, you're going to need Spanish subtitles for this. So if you do have, you probably need subtitles for this one. But this is the origin of the nickname, the Parakeet. So of course, during the 75th anniversary of Espanyol, a logo made of a parakeet already appeared, and people kind of forgot the history of the cats, actually. People kind of forgot the cats, of course. So it eventually became a parakeet. And several versions of the parakeets existed in the local shows and club, and then a few years ago, they decided to exploit the cute image of the parakeet and finally created their first mascot, the Parakeet, which is right here on your right on the screen. So yeah, it's Paraco and Parakeet, or Paraca, is the mascot of Espanyol. So yeah, that is pretty cool to talk about the history of the club's icon, of course. So we're going to go ahead and descend to 3,500 feet. So we're going to go ahead and descend and make our way down to 3,500 feet. So we're going to descend our way to Girona. So you guys don't know about Girona, of course, and about the city. Girona is a very important city. Girona is a very historically important city in Catalonia. 456,000, of course. This city is very famous for its ancient quarters have been preserved, making it a very popular tourist destination. People like to visit the historic cathedral. And of course, this city also has an extremely rich Jewish heritage too. Girona has the historic Jewish quarter, which is very popular for a lot of people. Want to learn more about the Jewish lives of people in Girona. Of course, Girona is also home to the local football club, Girona Football Club. Founded back in 1930, they're actually the 3rd biggest club in Catalonia. They're also owned by the City Football Group, which is also the ones who owned Manchester City in England. They also own Melbourne City, New York City Football Club, ES Troyes, and Palermo in Italy. But they own a lot of multi-club ownership. I mean, it's not immune. Espanyol's also multi-club owners as well, because Espanyol's ownership is actually owned by the AOK Capital Group of Velocity Sport Partners. And Alan Pace is the one who is the president and owner of the club, and he also operates Burnley Football Club in England. So that's why I'm kind of familiar with Burnley. So I'm pretty familiar with all of that sort of stuff. But Gerona's pretty cool though. Obviously they're nowhere near as historic as Espanyol's been. Espanyol's pretty much been in the top 5 La Liga since its original season. Girona for many years has always been in the third and second division for a lot of years in the Tercera division, which was the 4th tier of Spanish football. They've usually been in the 4th tier or 3rd tier of Spanish football, but have only been in La Liga over the past 8 or 9 seasons or so. Of course, their greatest year was back in 2023-2024 when they went to the Champions League, at 3rd place to qualify for Champions League. But Girona's pretty cool though. Pretty interesting club, the White Reds. And they play at the Estadio Montevideo. 14,000 people. It's a pretty small ground, obviously. Not a very big ground, but a very pretty intimate ground in comparison to some of the others in here in Spain. Yeah, let me show you. This is Girona's home ground. So this is Girona's home ground, the Estadio Montevideo. Yeah, it's this ground right here. Yeah, it's a very small ground. Very small. So yeah, it's a very, very small ground. So yeah, a lot of the stands here are temporary actually, because of course Girona's rise has always been a bit more gradual. So yeah, this is Girona's home ground. So as a result, normally its attendance is 9,000 people. So temporary seats have pushed up to 14,000. So not a lot of people here. Yeah, Girona's nice. Got to end up when they played Ajax in the Champions League. Yeah, it's crazy to think Girona got to play in the Champions League. But Girona, for one, is a very historic city, though. Like I said, I'd love to visit more of Spain. Hopefully, I get a chance to go. So, but yeah. And the crazy thing, though, is Espanyol's never played the Champions League. Yes, the Parakeets have still never played in the Champions League. That's because their highest ever placing has been 3rd, but it was in the 1980s when that happened, so they've never played in the Champions League. They played in the Europa League a few times, but never in the Champions League. Maybe this year might finally be different. Maybe we finally get a shot of it this year. So, big day, of course. Yeah. Girona, like the Girona's gained a lot of popularity in Catalonia over the last few years. So, so definitely very important as well. So, of course, there is one other club in Catalonia that needs to be mentioned. Now, there is one last club that needs to be mentioned, and that is, of course, is Barcelona's 3rd biggest club in the city, and it's actually one of La Liga's founding clubs, believe it or not. It's Club Esportu Europa, Esporta Europa, or C Europa as it's known. Dating back to 1907. This club was once the founder of one of the founders of La Liga, mind you. Now, back in the 1920s, of course, Europa was a big club in the 20s. In fact, it attracted a lot of attention from clubs like Bayern Munich, FC Porto, Hamburger, Udinese, and more. And they were once founders of La Liga, though. Now, of course, they haven't been back in the top flight since 1931. Now, this year, Europa's actually in the fourth tier. It's actually in the third tier of Spanish football as we know it. And in fact, Europa, let's see where they're placed in the third tier Spanish football. Oh, they're third place. They could potentially go to a playoffs promotion spot. They're in the promotion area. And I hope this happens. I would love to see Europa in La Liga again. That would be really cool to see a historic club back in the top flight of Spain. Would be really, really cool. But yeah, I love watching Spanish football. I really do. That's why I became such a big fan. So we're going to go ahead and put this point back to even. So this here is Girona. This here is the city of Girona in Catalonia. So beautiful city, of course. So I believe our next game day flight will be in the Peach Bowl, Bloomington over to Atlanta. We either do an airliner flight. I might bring the PMG. So this is Girona. We're flying over the cathedral here. So this here is the historic city, of course. So that is Girona City, of course. So this is the Estadio Monteverdi, right down below us. So there is Girona's home ground. For Girona. So once we land here, we'll prepare for the final So we're going to go ahead and land at Girona Airport. Lima Echo Golf Alta Echo. I think Ryanair mainly uses this airport, from what I know, from what I've read. So for the rest of the slides, we'll talk about the rest about Espanyol in the next couple slides, of course. We only got 3 more slides left to cover in our trip to Barcelona, of course. I can't wait to visit Barcelona, beautiful city. I'm currently looking at the RCD Stadium tours as we speak. I'm looking at the tours. Let's see, hopefully they'd be available soon for April. I guess I gotta wait a few months until they got the January schedule up, so hopefully it'll be available when I do my tour. Because like I said, I want to visit the RCD Stadium. They got some really cool stuff in the store. They got some really cool scarves and stuff. We're gonna go ahead and turn off autopilot. So here we go. So we're going to go ahead and make our link. Yeah, Ryanair uses it. That's right. Just want to make sure. But yeah, it feels nice to have a new system final remnant. Hmm. So we're going to go here as well. So we made our lane here in Girona, of course. So we're going to be parked here for a bit. We're going to see if anyone else wants to join on in. Here in beautiful Girona, of course. So really cool stuff about both these clubs, of course. So we'll be waiting right here if you guys want to join on in, of course. So we're getting ready for the next leg. So we're about to make our way to Barcelona next. For FC Barcelona, we're going to check out the Barcelona grounds, of course. So there's definitely a lot of very notable players and icons for both these clubs. So we're going to get ready to take off here very soon. So hope you guys enjoy it during my time. So we're going to be going over everything. So we're about to take, I'm going to go ahead and take off here as we make our way over to Barcelona finally. So go ahead. We're going to climb up to 4,500 for our first leg. So we're going to climb up to 4,500 feet. So as we climb to 4,500 feet for our next leg, so as we climb up, so we're going to climb up to 4,500 feet. We're going to climb over quite a few of the hills. So let's go ahead and talk about the rest of our Espanyol slides as we make our way to the RCD Stadium. So they play their games here at the RCD Stadium. Now this is a relatively modern stadium. This is actually one of the most modern in Spain. This whole ground was built on the outskirts of Cornellà de Llobregat in the wider Barcelona area, and it took about 3 years to build. It costed around 60 million euros to build this new ground for Espanyol, and it was opened pretty recently back in 2009, and it was awarded Venue of the Year in Dublin in 2010. With a capacity of 40,000 seats, it's the 10th largest in all of Spain, and it's the 3rd largest stadium in Catalonia, trailing behind the 2 big stadiums in Barcelona, the Camp Nou and the Olympic Stadium. And thankfully, this replaced their old stadium, the previous stadium, the Olympic Stadium, which was always meant to be temporary, of course. Of course, their first ever match here was in August 2, 2009, as Espanyol defeated Liverpool 3-0. However, one very important area here, of course, was that there was attempts to make sponsorship, but they failed to do so twice. First time due to fraud issues, the other time due to service contracts. Of course, they hosted quite a few concerts. Rammstein, Black Eyed Peas, Robbie Williams is hosted here. And it's a stadium that is in potential for the 2030 World Cup that's being held in Spain. So, beautiful modern stadium. They got a lot of really cool stuff here too. But Espanyol didn't always play at the stadium. They played in the Olympic Stadium, but that's not the stadium a lot of parakeets know of. If you ask a lot of parakeets, they'll probably tell you about the Estadi de Sarrià. They used to play this stadium for over 70 years at the Estadi Sarrià. For 74 years, they played their game at the Estadi de Sarrià. This historic ground for Espanyol has been around since then. 74 years. It's hosted all sorts of matches here. It's hosted games of the 1982 World Cup. And its capacity was around 44,000, which is not far off of the current ground's capacity. But it was a very intimate atmosphere, of course, for the Parakeets. Very intimate game, very intimate atmosphere. However, with Espanyol's financial troubles, they had to move out to the Olympic Stadium. And a lot of Parakeets really missed this ground. Very historic ground. I know a lot of Parakeets miss playing at the Estadi Sarrià. Very historic ground of Espanyol. Very historic ground, of course. So let's get back to our slides, of course. I'm going to go ahead and autopilot. Now to our next slide, of course, is their honors. And yeah, you can definitely see compared to Barcelona, they don't have anywhere near the honors. That being said, they're still a very successful club. They've won the Segunda Division twice, though, funnily enough, they still have yet to win La Liga. In fact, no one's played more seasons of La Liga without winning the league title than Espanyol has had, as they've been playing in 87 seasons in La Liga. Actually, scratch that. They've been playing. They've actually been playing in 89 seasons of La Liga, and they still haven't won the title. So, no league titles. They did, however, have won the Copa del Rey 4 times, including the Copa del Rey, which took place in the original La Liga campaign, 1928-29. They took the title in 1940. Then their most recent were during the 21st century, the 1999-2000 Copa del Rey, and most recently 2005 and 6. They've also won the Catalonia Championship 9 times, so they have had some success and some trophies, but nowhere near the amount Barcelona's had over the years. Now, finally, is some of Espanyol's players. Despite being overlooked in the city, the Parakeets have had many icons over the years. Now, of course, if I gotta pick the greatest player in the club's history, and especially in the modern era, there's no greater player in this club's history than Raul Temudo. He is their greatest all-time player. He is the player who's played the most. He's had the most appearances and goals in the club's history. Raul Temudo was a big-time player. He played at Espanyol. He came to the Espanyol Academy, and he played with the Parakeets from 1997 to 2010, bagging 129 goals with the club. He almost transferred out of Espanyol, but he managed to remain. He was almost joining the Rangers. However, due to failed medical, he remained at Espanyol, and it became a blessing for the Parakeets. Helped him take over 2 Copa del Rey titles for the Parakeets. He, of course, was part of the Temudazo in 2007, which costed Barcelona a title. And he is definitely a club icon. Very important player in Espanyol's history. Definitely a very underrated player. But a big part of the Parakeets' history. Next one on the list is Thomas Nkono. He's actually one of the greatest goalkeepers in Africa's history. He's one of the greatest goalkeepers from Africa. And of course, he played over 272 games in Espanyol. And that was the big European club he was part of. He was part of Espanyol, and he was a very successful player with the club. Fun fact about Nkono, his style of play, he was very well known for a strong athletic goalkeeper with speed, agility, and reactions. And his noble characteristic was to punch the ball away with power. And his aggressive style inspired a certain Italian goalkeeper named Gianluigi Buffon, one of the greatest goalkeepers to ever play football. Yeah, he's his idol, by the way. And he is one of the greatest goalkeepers. So, in fact, he's the reason why Buffon became a goalkeeper. So, yes, Nkono, very important player in Espanyol's rich history. Then we have, of course, Ricardo Zamora, one of the greatest Spanish goalkeepers of all time. Of course, he played for multiple Spanish clubs, but the Zamora Trophy was named after Ricardo Zamora, who was a big figure in the club during his earlier days. Ricardo Zamora is one of the greatest Spanish players of all time. He born in Barcelona, and he played for Espanyol for pretty much most of his career with the Parakeets. And he became a very famous goalkeeper. And he was a big part of Espanyol. And even, of course, he also had some controversies too, but we're talking about his playing career, and Zamora is a club icon, obviously. Then, of course, after Ricardo Zamora is the eternal captain, Danny Jarque. Of course, he may not have a long career because, unfortunately, Danny Jarque passed away far too young for us. But Danny Jarque was a big part of Espanyol. He was going to replace Raul Temudo as team captain, but he was a very well-liked player. He was a big part of Espanyol's defense during their Copa del Reys, and even appeared into the Europa League finals. Unfortunately, though, he passed away far too young when he passed away in August 8th, 2009. And as a result, the club honors him with a round of applause every 21st minute for the club. They do his round of applause. But definitely a club icon. Then we have Mauricio Pochettino. He's actually currently the U.S.'s national team head coach of the U.S. national team. He's the national team's head coach for the United States, but Poch actually is an Espanyol mainstay. He played between 1994 to 2006. He was a mainstay for the Parakeets, mainly for his midfield capabilities. But of course, nowadays you all know him as a manager. Especially, he managed the Parakeets in 2009. Then he became part of Southampton. And then, of course, you all probably know him for his time at Tottenham, and he helped Tottenham Hotspur become a very big club during those later years of the 2010s. but he's definitely a very successful coach, and mainly for his 4-2-3-1 formation. But yes, a lot of people kind of forget his time as a player. Then we have Marnon. He was definitely their previous goal-scoring king of Espanyol. Played for a bunch of the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. Then, of course, here's an interesting name a lot of you guys don't realize. Alfredo Di Stefano. Now, of course, a lot of you guys be asking, Viper, wait a minute. He played for Real Madrid. Why'd you put him for Espanyol? Well, that's because after Alfredo Di Stefano left Real Madrid, he ended up playing for the Parakeets during his last few seasons. Though he never did get his chance. It's not every day I could put one of club football's greatest icons on this list. Then, of course, Javi Puado, the current club captain. Javi Puado is on here. He's definitely can get his way onto the most play appearances for the club. Then we have Ito Argilis. And finally, and there are many more Parakeet legends and icons for the club in recent memory. So that covers all our slides for today, everyone. So as we arrive into Catalonia and Barcelona, let's go ahead and talk about some important stuff. So as we arrive into Catalonia, of course, in the Catalan capital, so I want to show you some bit of the club website for you guys. So let's take a look at what it looks like. So first we have Espanyol's website. So this is the website I'm part of, the Paraquitos. So right here you can look at the club, and you can look at its history, of course. It gives you a bit of the history of this club. So rich history. 1910, their blue and white colors and their new club badge. There's the Real title. Of course, future club legend Ricardo Zamora debuts at Espanyol in 1916. The Sarria was inaugurated, of course. Oh yeah, and Espanyol is also the club that scored La Liga's first ever goal, thanks to Peter Pratt. He scored the club's very first ever goal in La Liga. But yeah, lots of some historic players, of course. Copa winners, Copa finalists as well. They got control of the Sarria. Lots of history, though, too. The club's first relegation, 1961. Yeah, and there's Alfredo Di Stefano. There's a picture of him. He joined Espanyol. One of the greatest players of all time. Lots of different players, of course, with the club's history. Sarria hosts the World Cup. Third in La Liga, their highest ever placing ever in 1987. And there's the UEFA Cup, runners-up. They nearly got a European trophy, never could, though. Sadly. Of course, the Montague, there's the centenary, the 100th anniversary. Copa del Rey title in 2000, their first in 60 years. Then they won the Copa del Rey again in 2006. The RCD Stadium. And here's their modern era. So that is the Parakeets' history, of course. So that's the history. They also give you the badge, too. Badge has changed a lot over the years. Of course. And, of course, they got some really cool stuff in the shop. And if you look at the store, they got a pretty neat little shop. This year's kits, though, are absolutely stunning this year. Particularly their home kits. Their home kit looks amazing this year. It's based off their legendary kits from 1984 to 1992. Absolutely gorgeous kits. It's got the classic white and blue of Espanyol. It's got the classic white and blue parakeet look. So we'll be doing as well. And here's what it looks like on the pitch, too. Yeah, beautiful color. The white and blue looks absolutely gorgeous. The white kit looks amazing, of course. And of course, here's some of the colorful scarves that a lot of parakeets like to wear. I hope to get this one in stock because this is the one I want to buy. The Cinema scarf with the stripes. Like I said, that's a really cool one. But yeah, the parakeet's definitely really cool scarf. Lots of stuff too. Lots of tradition here for Espanyol. Now, the other club here is Barcelona. So this is Barcelona's website. Of course, Barcelona's got all sorts of stuff. They got a whole history section. Talk about Barcelona's history, of course. All their legendary players, of course. The legendary players and coaches. I mean, there's so many legendary players to pick from. It's not funny. They also got a thing for their identity, of course. Their own identity, the colors, the crest. Lots of stuff, though. Of course, there's also the La Masia. I guess I never talked about their academy, but Barcelona's academy is legendary in world football. But yeah, Barcelona and Espanyol, definitely lots of really unique stuff here with the clubs, so... So let's go ahead and turn left. 158. So we're about to now finally arrive into Barcelona. So here we go, guys. We're about to arrive in Barcelona. So we're finally getting to the city, of course. Mm. Mm. So we're going to go ahead and make our way down to Barcelona. So we'll fly over the New Sardina. We'll take a picture of the Sagrada Familia. Then from there, we'll head over to where the Estadio Sarri used to take place. And we'll fly around Barcelona, which I'll be visiting next year. But yeah, big games this week, of course, in La Liga. There's actually several other big games this week. Of course, Espanyol is the biggest game probably this week in the Spanish league. But the other really big game this week is Real Madrid versus Real Betis. That's another big game this week in Spain. Elche v Real are also a pretty interesting one as well. Elche just got promoted last season. They're in the top 10 La Liga this year. Elche, actually above many of the other teams in the Spanish league. And the other game that's pretty big, of course, is Osasuna Athletic Club, a battle between local rivals, of course. So should be a fun one, obviously. So yeah, some very big stuff over the next couple of days. So I think our next game day flight will be in it would probably be the Peach Bowl. It would be quite a bit of a flight. It'll be from Bloomington over to Atlanta. Probably do something with the TBM or something. But I mean, probably that one will be the biggest matchup since there really isn't any good normal football matchups next week. Because I look at my game day stuff, my game day flights. For my documents, though, there really isn't very many games I can pick. I guess Leverkusen, Stuttgart. I could do the FA Cup with Everton, Sunderland, but who knows? Maybe the Merseyside Derby could be a better time. So I'll wait and see what we pick. So this here is we're going to right. So this is Barcelona, the capital and largest city of Catalonia. So of course. So I'm going to put this. So this is the new Sardinia. That's the home of CE Europa, by the way. That's the home of CE Europa, Barcelona's forgotten founder of La Liga. Who knows? They could be in Segunda next year, which would be absolutely insane if that were to happen. If Europa got to be in Segunda, that would be crazy to think about it. It would be their first time back in that division since since the 60s, which is so this is downtown Barcelona, of course. So this here is the famous cathedral here, the Sagrada Familia, the most popular visitor attraction in the city. And guess what? This thing is finally going to get completed next year in 2026. So this place is finally getting completed, of course. We're going to go ahead and circle back the other way. But yeah, I can't wait to visit Barcelona. Should be a really cool city to visit. Very much looking forward to checking out Barcelona. Should be a gorgeous city. I know it's flooded with tourists. I know people complain about Barcelona having way too many tourists. I can understand why. I mean, it's culturally rich, lots of diversity there. So, not really surprised, of course. But yeah, this is the second time we've been in Spain in this series. Of course, earlier in the series, we went to Real Sociedad and Athletic Club for the Basque Derby, which ended up being a really great derby matchup, as that was a really great matchup. The Basque Derby ended up being an amazing matchup. The Basque Derby ended up being an amazing game. It was decided in the last minute, and it's Real Sociedad won that game. Yeah, Barcelona is a great city. I can't wait to come. One of the other things to do in Barcelona, though, maybe if I have time, I think we're doing the Sagrada Familia one of these days. It's the Sagrada Familia. Check that out, and then of course, maybe check out a tapas shop in Barcelona because that's one very popular thing to do in Spain. So this here is where the Soria once stood. Rest in peace, old Estadi Soria. The old home of the parakeets. Oh, and funnily enough, too, about the Barcelona Derby this year as well. Espanyol has yet to win the Derby since 2009 at the comp. That was the last time the Parakeets have won the Derby in league play. So here it is, guys. The comp new. So yeah, this is the Camp Nou. You also have the FC Barcelona Museum, of course. But yeah, that is the comp. Look how big, and mind you, this is pre-renovation comp. I know they did one. So this is the comp. Mescu un Club. The old comp. Or the new camp, actually. But this is the old Camp Nou because the old new camp because it's so we're just gonna fly over it again. But look at the details, man. This is gorgeous. So one last pass by at the comp before we say goodbye. But yeah, massive, massive stadium. FC Barcelona. All right. We're going to go here, and we're going to turn. See, they got a big museum there, too, at the Barcelona Museum. Lots of things, though. In fact, the Barcelona Museum, from what I know, the FC Barcelona Museum is actually another very busy tourist attraction. Apparently, the FC Barcelona Museum, I don't think I'm going to attend the Barcelona Museum because I can only pick one or the other. And I chose Espanyol because it is my favorite Spanish club. But I would love to do both. But I mean, it's absolutely huge, though. So this is the Montague. So this is the Montague Olympic Sports Complex. So this was where a lot of the 1992 Olympic Games were held, all in this area right here. So this was where the Olympic Games were held. So there's the Olympic Stadium. There's the National Art Museum and Palace. Of course, there's the Olympic Sports Complex. There's the Montague Castle. So there's the castle here, and to our left is the cruise port. As you guys know, Barcelona has a really busy cruise port. As you guys can all tell. Hey, we got a raid from Sand1033. Good to see you guys for the party for Sand. I hope you're having a great day. We're just about near the tail end of our stream here. We're doing a game day flight. We're doing a sports matchup this week. We have RCD Espanyol versus FC Barcelona. The battle for not just Barcelona, but for Catalonia. So I hope you're having a great stream, Sand. Thank you so much for coming to raid. This is actually my first official stream of the new year. I hope you had a great New Year's too. So if you guys don't know me, I'm ViperStrike95. I've been streaming here since 2021. I stream on Fridays and Sundays here at 1700 Sulu. But good to see you there. I hope you had a great stream. So for this series, if you guys don't know about the game day flights, we do these every week. We do every week on Fridays. It's our new Friday series, relatively new. And I wanted to reconnect back to my original series, a sports series I did back in 2021, and I want to do another sports-related stuff, but this is a weekly series. We've covered quite a few other games here too. So we're doing the Barcelona Derby. Thank you for the shout-out, Typhon. Definitely check out Sans1033's channel. Definitely check it out if you're interested. So we're gonna head. We just passed by the Camp Nou in the Olympic Stadium, of course. Games that played where Barcelona played this year. And now we're gonna head over to the RCD Stadium, the home of RCD Espanyol de Barcelona. My favorite Spanish club, by the way, and one of my favorite clubs to support. They're one of the clubs I passionately support as well. Oh, nice, you're in the Piper as well. That's great. I hope you had a great time in the Piper. Where'd you explore today, Sand? So where'd you end up exploring today? There's a whole big world out there. But yes, I am absolutely loving my new gaming PC. I got me that for Christmas, a really nice gaming PC. I've been on that laptop of mine for the past almost 6 years. So I'm overdue for a nice new upgrade. So this here is the RCD Stadium here in Cornellà. in the Barcelona metro area, opened back in 2009. So beautiful stadium, of course, beautiful modern stadium. Oh, Liverpool elites. You know, actually, I was actually in that around that area yesterday. I was doing a test stream yesterday, and I was actually flying around that area. So yes, I actually got to visit those areas yesterday on a test stream when I was testing settings to set this stuff up. So here it is, guys, the RCD Stadium here in Barcelona. So this here is Espanyol's home ground, a very modern ground. Quite a modern stadium here. 40,000 people. It's still a pretty big stadium. Even though the Parakeets aren't nearly as successful as Barcelona, it's still a pretty big ground. But it's still a very striking ground. They got solar panels up top to generate energy. It's clean energy stadium. Very, very fancy ground. But yeah, I hope you had a great flight, Sam. I do appreciate you coming by. You guys are all more than welcome to. If you guys like the channel, want to continue supporting it, we stream 2 days a week. Follow the button, smash that follow button, support the channel. We stream twice a week, Fridays and Sundays. Our next stream, of course, is Sunday. It's going to be our first national park of 2026 on this series, and this will be Grand Canyon National Park. So I hope you guys enjoy our of this trip, of course. So here we go, our last stop. Barcelona El Prat Airport, the main airport of the city. It's the gateway to Barcelona. So let's go ahead and make a landing here. And we're down. Wow, that was awesome, guys. So let's park and we'll wrap up the stream, guys. I hope you all enjoyed this trip. I'm proud to finally get this so let's park and we're gonna wrap things up here. So we'll turn everything off. So guys, I hope you all had a great stream today. We're here at Barcelona's El Prat Airport. So guys, I hope you all had a great day here. I appreciate you guys coming here for the first official stream of the year. So we're going to go say hello to my good friend Ibani's player. So we'll say hello to him. So we'll be back on Sunday where we'll be checking out Grand Canyon National Park. So it should be an absolutely gorgeous flight that day. So I hope to see you all soon. And take care, everyone, and see you all soon. Good night. Good day. Goodbye, everyone, and have a great rest of your day. Take care, everyone.